Welcome to Quest Givers, the first video of 2019, and this is all about time. Happened to land on the new year, bang! Time as a motivator and how you can use it in your game to motivate players to get their actors together. Let's get into it.
Yes, yes, Gareth, let's get.
If you're looking for adventure, excitement, thrills, and a dice-rolling good time, sit back and enjoy the next few minutes with Quest Givers DM Scotty and DMG. They're taking you on an epic journey through the role-playing experience every Friday. Learn the ways of the Game Master, the Dungeon Master, and delve into the minds of the players. Grab the modules each month to support the channel and play the campaign with your gaming group. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
So thank you to everyone who's already been purchasing modules from our website, questgivers.com. They come out the first of every month, so there was one that came out the 1st of January. So thank you for everyone who's already started purchasing that. And we hope to bring you a lot more than just that module this month. And of course, there's our Kickstarter on September 1st. Scotty!
Yes. Time is a very interesting aspect of RPGs, right? In our newest module, The Messenger in the Woods, time is directly related to the module, right? And we have a cool mechanic going on with that. But time is very important in other RPGs too, because there's lots of aspects, and not just literal time like the clock. There's other aspects in RPGs that you can control that are like count down or count up, that put pressure on the player characters, and that's kind of what the clock does. It puts pressure on the player characters to act, to do things, to certain aspects that they need to recover from. So it's a very interesting aspect of RPGs.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most important things that never actually gets mentioned in any rule books. Beyond a lot of rule books leaving out storytelling, a lot of rule books never mention time at all. There are a few that actually have some mechanics that are based on when things happen and that sort of stuff, but we're kind of going beyond that. We will include that, but we're kind of stepping beyond that. So, one of the important things, and you would have probably come across this in a lot of movies and books and things like that, there's a sense of a ticking clock. That ticking time bomb. The clock is going towards zero. Something is going to happen. There's a tension that builds up the closer you get to the end of this thing that's going to occur. The bomb's going to blow up, or in our first module, the tax collector is going to arrive. There's a very sort of definite end point to something. And I think what's really important, and what we try to put across in our modules, is that we don't say it overtly, do this, but we build that in the events that we're putting out. We're building in that time element. We want the players to feel like they can't just sit around and do whatever they like for a whole bunch of time. They've got to get out and do things, and that's the when if you've got the right. So we had the video about the plot hooks and all that sort of thing, and you've got the right moral imperatives and consequences and duty and all that kind of stuff. When you add in the time element, you say, right, you've got to save the town, but you've got to do it by the end of the day. That's different to you've got to save the town by the end of the year. It's like, good. Because that, and we know that human beings, we do everything at the last minute, right? There's not many of us who sort of go, all right, I'm going to do my homework today. No, you do your homework the day before it's due. That's how human beings operate. And it's the same in game. Players are the same. They will leave everything to the last minute. So this is where this becomes very, very important.
Oh yes, and it can really be abstract, as far as, at the most basic level. I think it's pacing too. Pacing at the table, like if things are, I think that's a problem that a lot of new DMs have, not jumping in and like taking control of the game. I'm not saying take away the agency of the players. I'm saying don't let the narrative just bog down, and you want that kind of kind of flow with the game, and it feels much more real if you throw in elements that make it interesting and kind of force the players to act. If things are lagging, the most basic level is throw in a combat, and that puts urgency on something. Also, it keeps the players from just endlessly just debating something. If they're debating stuff, have a wandering guard come by or something like that. They see a guard and it's going to come to them in a very short period of time, and they've got to make a decision. So you can use that kind of thing in that more abstract way to keep the game going, to not let it get to shut down. And new DMs, this is particularly important to you. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to jump in and add something that the players notice that gets them, motivated time-wise,
Yeah, our friend Hankren from Runehammer Games, he's done several videos and built into his system ICRPG, which is a great system. You can play our modules in that system actually, and what he likes to do is he likes to put a die down on the table that sort of indicates that something's going to happen in a certain amount of time. Sometimes he rolls the dice. So he'll get like a D6 and he'll roll it and it comes with a 3. So in 3 rounds, something's going to happen. Something's going to blow up, or a character's going to arrive, or something's going to happen. So there's an actual physical sort of reminder of the time that's sitting there on the table. It's kind of like a little hourglass. And I think what works really well, we've talked about in several videos and lots of people have been commenting it on the comments about our idea about strict turn order. And strict turn order is a way of controlling time. You are actually controlling the time of the game, and you're controlling the amount of time and the thought that goes into the actions of the players as well. So you actually then have your foot on the accelerator as the GM through the types of turns and the length of time you're giving players, and how you're presenting material to them as well. So that's another key little thing. So you can start to see how time actually permeates everything in the game.
That is a great point, Gareth. It really does. And what Gareth and I were talking about earlier was that, before the video, was that time is measured in a bunch of things that you wouldn't even think that it would necessarily be measured in. So say hit points, right? You're on kind of borrowed time, right? When your hit points run out, then you're dead, right? So that's a clock in itself. Other things that could be clocks would be like, like arrows. You're going to run out of ammunition. Oh, you're in a battle where you're in a pitched battle where there's an entrenched enemy and you're quickly running out of your arrows. What do? You're going to have to act because you're going to run out of ammunition. So you're going to have to do something. So those are nice things in the game that also act as clocks. Actually, physical, mechanical clocks really as much as any other clock.
And an interesting thing with those, when you talk about hit points and arrows and ammunition, running out of bullets and that kind of thing, when you run out of bullets, you now can't fight the monsters. You need to think of some other way to do it. So that's the definite tension at the end of that clock. If you're about to die, you got 1 hit point left. That puts a very definite end to the clock. But you as the GM, the interesting thing there is that you also control the tap to turn back, to give them more hit points, to give them more ammunition. It's like if you're in a computer game and you're running around and you've run out of ammunition, you've got to go and find ammunition. So you as the GM are the one who's putting the ammunition. How far away is the town? Can they make their own arrows? Are there trees available to make arrows? If they have to make bullets, where do the bullets come from? So now you as the DM kind of control this commodity that is giving them extra time in the game. So hit points, things like healing potions. In my game 70 system, water is used a lot. So the water sources are used for healing. Food, rest, a place to rest is people want to heal, so they need an empty room. So that's where empty rooms come in very, very handy, or a room that's already been cleared out. And you as the GM control these aspects. And so you are the one who has the foot on the accelerator and the brake. You can start to see how this You as the GM have a lot of power over manipulating this. And I think for new GMs, something to try is to think about things from a time perspective in your game. So not just things like, as we talked about strict turn order, but things like a chase scene, for instance. What makes a good chase scene? You just think about the elements that you require in that. You've got a big monster or an enemy or something that you don't want to fight. You're running away from it. So it's getting closer and closer and closer. So you've got to get somewhere to get away from that thing. So if you have level 1 characters and you introduce something that would normally be fought by level 7 or 8 characters if you're playing D&D or in a game with levels, you now have to run away from this thing because there's no way you're going to fight this at level 1, right? Unless you're crazy. And I did this in my Under the Tavern thing where, you kind of go too far into the cave and there's a giant monster. And I just say a giant monster of very high difficulty. And in one of the streams that I saw someone running my module, they put a purple worm against level 1 characters. Now, everyone's seen Scotty's purple worm that he's crafted. Now you slam one of those down on the table, the party are going to run away. And this, again, you are now motivating them. You are now creating a chase scene through the dungeon or through the town or through whatever. And you've heightened the tension of what's happening. But what you're really doing is telling them, you need to speed up. You're playing too damn slow.
And, we were talking about kind of time being a resource, and in D&D in particular, players want to take a lot of rests, right? they want to use rest because they're at full power, right? When you use a rest, your hit points come back, you get all your stuff back. So they want to do that. But, as a DM, you can not necessarily make them not do it. You could. I mean, you're controlling the game too much, I feel. What I like to do is more like give them a dilemma that we've talked about in other videos. Like, okay, you could take a rest, but then there's going to be a negative consequence because maybe the billing gets away or maybe something, because the world is going on while you're taking the rest, right? So if you're taking a rest, a long rest in particular, and the enemy's doing something horrible, they're going to keep doing that horribleness, right? So yeah, so you can stress that. And it's like, do you want to tackle this with your clock counting down, more than maybe you'd like, which for most players, they don't want any counted down, or do you want to follow through maybe while the enemy's weaker, maybe they haven't been able to get all the resources ready yet. And so I find that's a great way to motivate players to not necessarily just take a rest every chance they get.
And the key thing with rests as well, the reason why characters and players want to take lots of rest, because it doesn't cost anything. It's not costing them any gold to rest, all right? Unless they go to the tavern. But I mean, to be honest, most taverns were like 2 gold. You've just picked up 25,000 gold in the dungeon. What's 2 gold, right? So that doesn't matter. But what does cost money is healing potions and spells. Spells have spell slot. You need to rest to get your spells back, right? In certain games. In other games, you need to get your mana back. You need to get, whatever, there's a range of different ways but generally resting gets you your powers back. So by not allowing them to rest, you are restricting them. Now you don't want to have them at 0 the whole time, because then it's just like, we just never get to stop. So you want to have those breaks in there, but when you think of the time as a resource and you're thinking of, okay, well, they want their hit points back and I want to dilute some of the gold that they've got, they got to buy healing potions, or they've got to find healing potions, which makes them explore the dungeon more so they can find a place to rest or healing potions, and so that again will motivate them to press forward. So super cool, super exciting. Any more to add there, Scotty?
Yeah, the time pressure is great, and like you say, yeah, it's all a resource, right? Time is we were all kind of, you know, using time. Actually, in our real lives, we're using time. Time is a resource. Time is money, right? Time is money, and it's not really any different in a role-playing game. I mean, time is the currency, you know, that runs the game, that you know, everything revolves around, especially when you think about it with, like, you know, ammunition and hit points, and, you know, will we do this or that, you know, do we have time to do this? So there's a lot of different aspects that time comes into, and which Gareth said earlier, I really don't see anybody mention this. You know, I really haven't seen anybody talk about this aspect of role-playing, which is really, it's really central to it. It's really core to it, and it almost drives everything, really, don't you think?
You heard it here first on Quest Givers. Probably someone has written about it, we just don't have those books. If you do have a role-playing system, that, you know, put it in the role-playing argument section in the bottom below this video. So thank you for joining us for this video, and of course, you know, help support this channel by purchasing our modules on questgivers.com. And of course, you can get merchandise like this t-shirt and Scotty's hoodie. See you in the next video.
Bye guys, you take care.